Before we get into this episode, you are invited to our 4-day in-person training to become an intuitive psychology coach in Edinburgh on the 16th until the 19th of March 2026.
This is an in-person intensive learning experience where you will be trained by myself and Jill directly to become an accredited intuitive psychology coach, but places are limited. So head on over to the website for full details to secure your place. Hello, we are back with another episode of the Intuitive Psychology, the podcast. I am Sarah Gregg, one of your hosts, and I am joined by the fabulous, amazing, wonderful co-founder, partner in crime, Jill Ritchie.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So we are in our podcast studio in Glasgow, and we're just loving being back in this space, talking and connecting and bringing you all things intuition, psychology, the messy middle, the expanded end part of it, and everything in between. So today we are going to talk about intuition, and particularly, Sarah, do you want to?
Yeah, today's episode is really focusing around the fact that you are underestimating your intuition.
Okay, so let's talk about how someone. Okay, what do we mean by underestimating intuition?
So let's dial it all the way back, listener, okay? Stay with us for this, because this is going to be part information, part immersion, where you are, towards the end of this episode, going to feel your intuition in action, so that everything that I'm about to explain, you're going to feel it directly for yourself. So if we think about intuition, you can agree, can't you, that you know that intuition exists. If you're listening at home, just have a little moment to reflect. Have you ever had an intuitive nudge? Have you ever had a feeling about a person, a place, a particular decision? And have you ever followed that intuition? Have you ever went against that intuition? And when you think about going against that intuition, how well did that turn out for you? Or did you find yourself saying, oh my goodness, I knew that. I just knew I shouldn't have trusted that person. I knew I should have trusted my gut. And for most people, you'll probably be nodding your head. Maybe you're listening in your car, you've got it on in your kitchen, but you'll be like, yes, oh my goodness, yes. I know, I can think of a time whenever I've gone against my intuition. But that is just the surface of what intuition is about. In fact, often when we hear people talk about intuition, we talk about it in terms of phenomenology, big word, basically means just how it feels. So we talk about intuition as a feeling. I just know it's right. It's a gut instinct. It's within me. But intuition is more than that. It's the important bit is not just how it feels, but what it is. So this is where science and psychology really comes into play. And also what we do the best at IPA is this merge of science and spirituality. So intuition is much, much more than just a feeling that happens to us that we have no control over. Intuition is always present, but it's not always perceived. And it is our deepest form of intelligence. And here's the real key. Intuition is a organizing intelligence. And what I mean by that is it organizes us back into harmony with our true authenticity. That's why Francis Vaughan called it the memory of the truth. That's why psychologist Carl Jung understood that the intuition was our ability to make the unconscious conscious, to get us off that 95% operating system that is governing our lives. He said famously, until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate. So intuition is our ability to organize ourselves back into harmony and our full authenticity. And it does this by traveling across timelines, past, present, and future.
I love this. The key thing that's standing out, and it's just still resonating with me just now, and I know we've spoken about this before, but it is the memory of the truth that you said. And so when Sarah's talking about it's one of those things you're like, oh my God, yeah. But when you really think about what that means for you, when you think of the memory, intuition as the memory of truth, that means it's the memory of your truth, which is your authentic self. And so with your intuition, and that's why when you've ever gone against your intuition, you're like, I knew that. And it doesn't feel good when we go against our gut, even though we're like, I know I should not be doing this or being this way or doing this thing. but I'm in this loop, or I'm doing it anyway. And although it doesn't serve us, because when we're going against our intuition, i.e. our truth, of course it's not serving us. Your intuition will never, ever, ever take you down the wrong path. It will never do anything that is not deeply aligned to you and the plan that was made for you before you even entered this lifetime. When it feels not good is when we're going against it, when we're going against our truth, i.e. our intuition. And I love that, the memory of the truth. It's the remembering before you were conditioned and played the role that you were here, that you've been told to play, and all the lies that you tell yourself and that others have told you and who you should be. That memory, for me, that's just such an emotional thing. It's like, oh my God, it's the memory of my truth. And if I can really go with and work with my intuition, not only does it heal me from the inside out, it allows me to be free. That's true freedom. And that's what everyone wants, really.
Exactly. And I think the key word is the conditioned self. So when we're working with intuition, specifically, this framework is an intuitive psychology framework, an evidence-informed approach to really work with intuition that we have spent years kind of cultivating and developing. So when we're working with intuitive psychology, what we're doing is we're shifting from the conditioned self, which is that moment where you go, I know what I should do, the truth, right? The authentic truth of the past. And then conditioning creeps in and goes, you don't want to be a bad person. You should do the right thing. Like, oh, maybe it is okay.
That's too much.
That's too much. So when we make that shift, like internally, we're shifting them from conditioned self into conscious creator. Yeah. That conscious creator is coming from a place where we're shedding those old conditions of the past and we're moving into the truth of our future, a more aligned version of us. And what is amazing about intuition and why it's so underestimated and why we're so passionate about this is it's not just some mystic woo-woo thing that happens, right? Yes, there are mystical things that happen with intuition because its intelligence is vast. It defines timelines. It's an incredible ability, and there are still elements that science doesn't know. But let's look at how it shows up in our timelines, past, present, and future. So intuition shows up in the present moment because often we feel like something isn't right, something is off, and that floods our conscious awareness because that's when intuition is really heightened. It needs to communicate the memory of the truth, needs to communicate to you you're not on the right path. So let me flood your body with somatic intuition that makes you feel like I don't know what it is because everything in my external world is the same, or I should be happy, but I'm not, but somehow something is off and you can't shift that feeling.
Okay, before you go on, for anyone listening, what is somatic?
Somatic in the body.
In the body. And give me an example, I know, but for other people listening, an example of that can look like and feel like what?
Can feel like, I'll give you an example from my own life, whenever my intuition was really at its peak saying, you're not on the right track. You're not on the right track. It would come at night. So because I would just numb out and keep myself busy all day. But when I put my head on that pillow at night, it would be like a dull ache. Like there was a missing piece of me, like something was missing, like a homesickness, do you know? And it
like
is
an emptiness,
like an emptiness, and it is that feeling because you're trying to come home to yourself,
a disconnection.
Yeah, totally.
And also, and somatic, somatic is in the body. It can also show you in physical pain.
Yeah, for you, whenever it was at your height, like you've talked about this before in the podcast, skin issues, hair falling out.
Stomach issues.
Yeah.
Pain in the stomach. Now, I know a lot of people will resonate with this. I used to be like, oh, and we put it down to, oh, it's just stress. Why are we accepting that?
Yeah.
Like, why are we actually accepting hair falling out, skin conditions, chronic stomach pains, migraines? We're just like, oh, it's just stress. Yet we accept that. And it's like, if we can really get still enough to tune into the gift that we have, that is an intuition, it will tell us everything that you are questioning in your life, everything that you are unsure or uncertain about, whether that's in your personal life, your business life, and everything in between. All you need to do is work with your intuition. that holds every answer to everything.
It does. It's an organizing intelligence and it will work. So it comes in the present moment and then it will help you work with the past. So whenever we look at the psychology, so, you know, Carl Jung, very famous depth psychologist, he called intuition like the direct perception of the unconscious. We know that the unconscious governs 95% of our behavior. 5% just comes from the conscious mind. That's why we find change so hard. We cannot out-discipline the unconscious mind. You can't just force yourself to do more. It's like having a team of 10 people, right? And you take 5% of that team, which is roughly one person. It's actually 0.5, but hey, you know, let's go with one person, and you give them a task to do. And meanwhile, the rest of the 9 people, like they're not bad. They're just busy, right? They're like protecting you for something. They're keeping themselves distracted.
Everything.
They're governing.
Almost like they're the governor of the city. They're governing everything. No, that can't get in. That you know.
Exactly. So you've got this fragmented self.
Yeah.
And we know that authenticity is about being whole. It's about all parts working together. So what intuition does, and we know this from recent neuroscience, is it is a rapid pathfinding mechanism. So in other words, it goes into this vast storehouse that is the unconscious. So if you imagine kind of like your mind is this like huge kind of like warehouse, storehouse, where every thought, every action, every emotion, every memory, every lived experience is contained within. Because even though you haven't consciously processed all of that, it lives in your mind and body. Now, what intuition does is, when we're able to direct it, which is what we train our coaches to specialize in, when we're able to direct it, it can go in and rapidly pull out all of that information so quickly, put it into consciousness in the form of a symbol and a metaphor, something that's delivered in consciousness that comes in faster than intellect can understand. It outpaces logic. That's why it doesn't follow long, linear like narratives. It doesn't need to go through the whole story because it's processed that knowing faster than logic or intellect. So instantly then you have rapid new awareness in your mind. That awareness coupled with the present moment awareness of like something doesn't feel right, all of a sudden then the system is beginning to reorganize itself. It's going, something feels missing, something feels off. I feel like I'm not living to my full potential. I feel like I'm not being my true self. I feel like I really deserve a loving relationship. I feel like I should be healthy, but I'm not. Then comes the past awareness, and all of a sudden, past, present, and future are starting to come together. Then when we start to merge present awareness with the past, new realities begin to form. The system starts to reorganize. Past parts that were once exiled because they were deemed unsafe start to be ushered back in, and the system starts to live in harmony. So all of a sudden, the protector parts are stepping back. They're moving back into their original place. The exiled parts of maybe ambition, drive, success, safety to receive, safety to love, safety to be rejected, safety to put myself out there, are welcomed back in, and the system starts to reorganize back to its original harmony, the way that you were born, the memory of who you were whenever you came into the world.
The truth, the memory of the truth. I love that so much. I'm a very visual person, so when Sarah's talking, I see it in like images, and I almost see this communication when you're working with intuition. You're able to speak to the direct source rather than all the governors of the city being like, oh, you need to pass this part first before you get in there. Oh, you're not getting in there. And all of that is designed to keep you safe, right? But actually what we do when we spend time regulating the nervous system, we create that safety. So the person feels safe. And when there's safety in the body, we can just basically cut through all the noise. I'm imagining just getting through all that noise and going straight to source, straight to the source, straight to the root, straight to the truth of, okay, what's really going on here and what do you really need? Because we've created just enough safety. Now, it's not always permanent, even in one session, right? But just enough to like allow safety to just take a bit of space for us to go in there and communicate with the part.
Yeah.
To talk to the part, to ask the part. And then it's like, as Sarah mentioned, we're not re-traumatizing ourselves or our clients. We're actually just talking directly to truth. And it's like, oh, okay, right now. And when we have that awareness, suddenly like it's in the consciousness now. It's like, oh my God, I thought I knew what that was. And actually, until I've gone in there, I didn't realize it was that. I thought I knew. You think you know, right? And it feels logical because you're like, yeah, that would make sense. But trust me, when you do this work, it surprises you when you go in and you talk directly to that part, because then sometimes it's like a word or just a sentence. It's like, oh, it's that. And you're like, oh my word, this whole time I thought it was this thing, but it was actually this thing. And now I know, and I have the awareness. I now have tools to work with that, to create so much safety for that part to come forward and to move and to alchemize.
So let me kind of like, as you're talking, it's like really bringing to mind an example of like how quickly this awareness unfolds. So I remember being like deep in an intuitive process, and I was working with my own kind of like fear around worthiness, kind of rejection. And I thought I was going to go into this intuitive process and be like, you know, showing fear in some way. And you never know what to expect, and it continually surprises me. But what surprises me is how fast it happens. So I was in a process, I was being guided through it, and instantly into my kind of like visuals was myself and then my mum and dad. And we were like standing in a triangle. And if you can imagine like thick, heavy ropes, like something like you'd see on an old pirate ship, like, you know, really big, thick, knotted kind of like ropes tied around my waist and then connected me to my mum and dad, like in this triangle, all weighted down by it. And then intuition, it comes in so rapidly that what I'm about to say in words is going to take me a few seconds to explain. But I want you to know that when this happens in your consciousness, it's in milliseconds. It's like the most rapid download where information is being flooded into your awareness in a way that defies time. It just defies linear time. So in this moment, kind of like visualizing mum, dad, me, all connected, bound by these ropes, it was, you are the one that sets everyone free. Like, you are keeping everyone locked in this like drama cycle. You are holding these bounds and you're expecting these two individuals to be the ones that set you free. You're looking for them to change. You're outsourcing all of your power to like manipulate and control and to wish and hope and pray that like something would be different. You're the one that like cuts the cord. You're the one that cuts the rope. And when I came out of that, I knew exactly what to do. Now, I slept in it that night. I woke up the next morning, the most amount of clarity I've ever had in my life. I walked to the shop, I bought 2 cards, and I wrote my mum a letter and my dad a letter outlining just how I felt, like how I felt, what I wanted them to know from me. It wasn't something I felt comfortable saying on the phone, but I knew I could like get it into words. What happened then was I started speaking to my dad after like 20 years, you know, almost 20 years. That moment, now if I'd have gone to therapy, and I've done talking kind of like style therapy before, you'd be there for years unpacking different bits, but I knew in that moment what I needed to do. And that's the beauty of intuition, is it is rapid, like conscious awareness that changes everything in a moment. Absolutely everything.
That's why we have not only so many people that have trained with us and clients that have said, I've done years of therapy and I've never got what I've got in this. Not only that, we have people that are therapists,
psychologists,
psychotherapists, neuroscientists, right? Literally, that come in because they know what's up, but we need to go in. It's deeper than that, right? You know that, like, there's stuff there with mum and dad. Like, I know there's stuff. We know
everyone has mum and dad stuff.
We know there's stuff, right? But we don't know how to, in inverted commas, fix it. It's like, and you don't get that with just trying to talk it out. Like for me, like that was Sarah's, for me, this hyper independence of, I don't need anyone. I can do it on my own. And then I wondered why I would want to just escape certain relationships after a certain amount of time. I knew on a surface level what that was, but it wasn't until I really worked with intuition that I realized, again, you were holding like the ropes. I was the issue. Now, there was stuff being shown up and there was stuff being shown to me, but my lack of, again, my lack of safety that I felt being around people was the issue. And until I worked on that, well, brought awareness to it, number one, and then worked on it, I would keep repeating the same patterns over and over and over again. People think, well, if I just escape that relationship, then it's going to, I'll find a better partner, it'll be better. Or if I just get away from that, or I move country, or if I just get a new job, then it's going to be better. It won't. It won't, because unless you address the issue, you're going to just keep repeating the same pattern. It's just dressed up in a different guise. Honestly, it is. Even when you make more money and you do all the things and you achieve all the things, same problem. You cannot outrun this. But the beautiful thing is, and I love this because it's the most empowering thing you have is your intuition, because that's got all the answers.
All of
everything.
Them.
You can do it. You do not need someone else to do it for you. You don't need to outsource. Now, you're maybe listening to this going, yeah, but I need to access, and that's different, right? So learning to really deeply work with your intuition. And if you're a coach, being able to do this with your clients, but it's not about creating a codependency. It's not about them saying, oh, I need my coach. And this is about you giving back the keys to the person, or to yourself, first of all, and then to the person, to really actually see it all for themselves and then make the change.
Exactly. And intuition is it's the key to all of it. You know, we know it from the neuroscience and we know it from our direct experience, but yet we underestimate it because, let's face it, like Western society in particular would rather have us rely on logic, would rather keep us in our cages, would rather us stay in our condition boxes and be good girls, you know?
I know.
But actually, whenever you realize that you don't need more information, let's face it, there is like a multitude of information online. You know, I can learn how to meditate, do breath work, I can learn a new language, I can do a workout. All of that is at the tip of my fingertips. But yet you don't make the change. The reason is you're looking in the wrong direction. You're looking outside of yourself. When you go inside and you activate this voice that is the memory of your truth, that makes the unconscious conscious, that tells you it is time. These protective patterns, they served you at one stage. Now we're safe to let them go. I'm showing you by telling you you're on the wrong track. When you know how to work with this universal intelligence that organizes you back into harmony with yourself, my goodness, it is unbelievable. You will never look outside for another answer again, ever.
You won't. You actually won't.
No.
We're being deadly serious. You won't, because the more you exercise that muscle, but the thing is, you mentioned this, like society, you know, doesn't want us to do it because actually it's too easy. Oh, it needs to be more complicated than that. Surely it just can't be that. Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. And when you understand that and you realize that you have the keys and that you have all the answers, it's the most empowering thing and the gift you can give yourself.
And when you start to look around you, you know, if we look at kind of like the wellness industry as a whole, it's all based on, you could distill most things down into intuition, do you know? Like how intuitively move your body, intuitively eat, do you know, intuitively exercise, know when to move. Intuition is at the core of everything, but we've been told to look in a different direction. Now is the time to reclaim this. Like so many of us, the one thing that we want to do is be ourselves, but it is the hardest thing in the world to do. If you want to be yourself and you want to move across timelines, understand your present, allow the past to make sense. And then also intuition enables you to move into the future because there is part of you that knows what it's here to do. That's like a transpersonal form of intuition where it's something outside of yourself. Like when you kind of move yourself into a future and you start to tune into that future feels right and it feels aligned with me. Like, you know, when we quit our jobs and moved into our own individual career paths, when people come to train with us, they often say the same thing. I don't know why, I just know I'm meant to do this. I know it feels right. Again, intuition showing up in the future form, saying this is the direction. You don't have all the information yet because you don't need it. You just need to follow this path and it becomes your North Star, your guiding compass. And you know what? It comes from you. No one tells you what to do. No one
Mm-hmm.
gives you their recipe. I think we're all sick of people telling us what to do, if I'm honest. You come back to yourself, and this is what intuitive psychology does. It's disrupting not only the coaching industry, but the wellness industry, because it's saying, hang on, we're kind of sick of listening to other people following their 5-part roadmaps to how they should live their life. What about my truth? What about my uniqueness?
Yeah, because no two people have walked the same path. Even kids that are born into families, there's maybe siblings, they both experience completely different childhoods, even though they've been brought up by the same parents, because we're all individual. So what might work for someone will not work for you. That is not to say that you don't want to be around people that you inspire you and motivate you. I think accountability is really important. I think being around people that are in that space and, you know, doing really well, especially if you are, you know, you're running your business or you want to do really well or you want to get as fit as you can be, definitely being around those people are super, super important. But don't outsource your own power, like your way. We say it all the time, but your way is the right way. I think it's important to mention that we've stopped trusting ourselves. I know we trust ourselves so much more now, but a lot of people, when I say we, the royal we in general, people do stop trusting themselves. They think that other people know better. And so I think this would be a really good opportunity for us to give you an exercise to do, because how do you trust yourself? Because there's people that seem to be doing it all. You're like, well, if I just take their roadmap for success, then it'll work for me. And parts of it might work. And listen, there's great mentors out there. We mentor people. What we are always really focused on is bringing people back to authenticity and what that looks like for them. Because the fact of the matter is, and we'll 100% stand by this, when you're living in your own authenticity, you can't get it wrong. There's no way. You can't fail. You can't get it wrong. It might be challenging to get there because you're letting go of old identities, which involve people, but you can't get it wrong. So that is our biggest mission in this lifetime. But let's give you an exercise to really tune into your intuition right now. Now, we are not going to give you the roadmap to clear this, to move it through your body, but we're going to bring, by giving you this exercise to try it out. So if you're driving, it's maybe not something, maybe it's something you can think about for sure. But if you are able to, and I would suggest that you do, like whatever you're doing, just stop, grab a pen and paper, grab your phone, go into your notes section, go the extra mile. Don't just listen to this. I mean, I'm saying this with love, but don't just listen to this and go, yeah, and do nothing with it. Like, this is just one tiny little exercise that we're giving you to do. Just do it.
Yeah. And it will show your intuition in action. Like, you know, you can tell we're passionate about this. And whenever you start working with this, you cannot look back. You cannot go back once you activate this.
Once you know, you're like, oh my God, now it's tapping me in the shoulder every bloody minute. So take a moment. Okay. And just before you start, right, we like to assume that you're in a space that you can do this. Everyone is at different stages. For some people, they're really comfortable closing down their eyes. For others, it maybe feels a little bit strange. So wherever you are right now, just take a moment to look around the space that you're in. Take some deep breaths, and you're just really orienting around the room. So you're maybe looking at, okay, and just name a few things that you see. So you may say wall, chair, door, window. Just take a moment to look around and just name them, label them, okay? And then I invite you just to gently, if you're comfortable, close down your eyes. And feeling a little bit strange and a little bit weird, that's fine. Like, it's okay. Just I'd encourage you just to do it. Take a few deep breaths, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And I invite you just to allow your exhalation to be longer than your inhalation. So again, just maybe 3 or 4 times breathing in through the nose with intentionality, right? So breathing in and inviting in new, fresh energy. And as you exhale, just drop your shoulders, allow the borders of your body to soften. You're closing down your eyes and just bringing awareness to your body. Now, for some of you, you may be able to do that quite easily. For others, it maybe feels a little bit, I'm not sure what I'm feeling in my body. That's okay. Wherever you are right now, just honor that. But if it's possible, as you keep your eyes closed and just focus on your breath, I invite you just to Intuitively be led to a part of your body and allow intuition to take you to a part of your body that you feel most drawn to right now. Any part of the body. Don't overthink it. Okay, you've got that. And just breathe. And just go to a part that perhaps feels within that body, within that part. There's maybe a protector part. There's a part that's maybe feeling quite protective. And just notice what you notice. Where it's located in your body. And just name that part of the body. So not the actual physical part like shoulder or arm or chest or heart. Just name whatever's coming up. It might be a word like safety or fear or block, something like that. Just whatever that part is, just allow intuition to show you and name it. And just breathe into that part. Breathe. No need to rush. And just ask that part, what are you keeping me safe from? What are you keeping me safe from? Allow intuition to show you. And I invite you not to question that. It might be a word, it might be an image, a symbol. Just allow that to come forward. And now ask that part, what does it gain from staying there? Okay, and just notice what's coming up. And what happens if it stays there? What happens if that part stays there? And just feel into that. Okay. Take a few deep breaths and open your eyes. Now that is just a tiny little part of the work that we do in one of our techniques. Okay, we usually spend a lot longer and we work with the part a lot more. But what we want to do with this one, the purpose of this is just for you to get still enough to connect, to ask questions of that part, to notice what you notice, and to notice, number one, what it is there for, what its purpose is, what it's protecting you from, what it's maybe keeping you safe from. But what happens if it stays there? What if it doesn't move? What does life look like? And just maybe write that down. It might just even be one word. It doesn't need to be a long story. If you're in a really long narrative, we just invite you to maybe do this exercise again, but spend a bit longer doing some breathing, closing down your eyes. We have lots of free resources and we can actually drop, that would be good. We can maybe drop a link into the show notes for you to be able to go into this deeper. We have a full workshop on that and that might help you. But hopefully this just give you a little bit of a flavour of connecting to intuition and asking direct questions of it.
Yeah, and it can feel uncomfortable at the start, but what you'll notice, especially if you do this exercise and you bring to the forefront of your mind, like something that's holding you back right now or something, you know, you feel like there's a particular block on, you'll notice that the body kind of speaks to you, and we are a multitude of like lots and lots of different parts. And this is where the organizing intelligence really comes into play, because those protected parts, they're almost like, you know, when you cut your hand and like a scab kind of has to form over, you know, to protect the skin, and the scab eventually falls off whenever like the skin underneath feels safe. A protector part is similar. It kind of has to close over and protect authenticity from being harmed, but then it needs to fall away. But it's hard for that part to fall away because it doesn't feel safe to. And actually, when Jill asked, in that intuitive process, like, what does this part like gain from staying there? There's always an unconscious trade-off, like what did I gain from keeping myself to feel safe from ever being rejected? Well, I kept myself safe from hurt. I kept myself safe from visibility. Like I
From
gained
rejection.
from rejection. I totally like, I stayed in like a victim narrative of like, oh, it's not me and oh, my childhood and all of that, and those narratives kept me safe until they didn't need to be there anymore. Like the wound kind of
them.
It totally. But when the self is organized in this way, so if we can agree we're a multitude of parts, right? Like you have a loving part, an angry part, a fearful part, a hormonal part, like a happy part, a sad part. When we're a multitude of parts, whenever those parts are arranged in a certain way that we call our identity, like how then is reality perceived to us? Do you know? So when my parts are organized in a protective pattern to protect me from rejection, I perceive reality in a different way. I view the world through a lens of, I need to keep myself safe from hurt. So as you work through that exercise, just notice the part communicating and don't ever feel like it's a bad thing or like, oh no, this means that I'm not good, or it's none of those. It's just that part showing you it's time to let go. It's time to let go.
If it wasn't time, it wouldn't show you that. And again, it goes back to that, anything that is not aligned to your deepest truth, the memory of the truth, it will feel uncomfortable. Just accept that. Accept that you never, very rarely do you go in and go, oh yeah, that's so comfortable. If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. I think it's easy, but it's hard. At the same
well, it's
time,
confronting. I think it's just confronting because you are literally like dismantling your current reality and your current identity. So that's vulnerable because it feels like, well, if I'm not that anymore, then what am I? And that's a transition point, but that's the birthplace of just remembering who you are. Like the answers are already there and there is nothing to be frightened of within yourself. Absolutely nothing.
No, I love that. And I think before we wrap this episode up, the key is taking action on this. And then when I kind of said earlier, like, do yourself a favor and do this exercise. It's just a few minutes or not. But I even noticed, like, Sarah, I've started talking about this, like how you do one thing is how you do everything. And you either do it or you don't. And, a lot of the time people will listen to things and they think they're doing the work. Oh, I've listened to that podcast, or yeah, I did that course. That means I'm doing it. That's only like a part of it. The biggest change happens when you take the action and you be the change and you do the things that are uncomfortable. But that's the work. That's the work, or else you're doing all the hard stuff, like doing all the digging, but you're not actually taking the action. It's like, come on, don't put yourself through all of that deep inner work and then do nothing with it.
Yeah.
But, to your point, you kind of mentioned the victimhood. A lot of people are so used to being in that victimhood. It's like, I don't know how to be anything else. Listen, sometimes we need to just be a bit tougher with ourselves and give ourselves a bit of tough love, especially when you've been doing a lot of work. Now is the time to take the action. You can't keep going round in circles and expecting transformation and change. You've got to roll your sleeves up and take the action. Because what's the point in doing it all if you're not going to actually make the change?
Yeah.
And harsh but true, soz.
But it is true.
Putting yourself through all that.
It is true.
And then not actually. And man, can you imagine if we did all that? Like, because we've all been here and there'll be listeners that are like, you've had your Gollum moment where you're like having the total like dark night of the soul death, ego death. And you're like, I'm actually dying. And you actually get physically sick. Like Sarah mentioned in another episode, like, and I know when I'm going through a deep clearing, you end up getting like the flu or something. Like you're literally clearing out everything. But imagine you went through all of that, years of all that work, and then you didn't even do anything with it. Because it's a habit. Like a lot of the time we are in this habitual loop of, oh, this is my story. This is my story. It doesn't have to be.
No, and I think intuition is the truth that shatters the story.
Boom. What a way to end that episode. Intuition is the truth that shatters the story. And intuition is your memory of the truth. I love that. Okay, gorgeous. Enjoy that exercise. Let us know how you go on. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it across your social channels, and we'll see you in the next episode.